Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to another GTA discussion video, and this is quite an important one because we're going to be trying to get Rockstar's attention to fix some of the class issues that we have when it comes to racing in GTA Online. So if you're not interested in listening to anything that I've got to say throughout the rest of this video, that's absolutely fine. But if all you're interested in is helping to support this cause, click the link in the first line of the description. It will take you to the Rockstar support forum post for this issue, and in there, you know, I've spent a lot of time writing quite a lot of text about all of the issues and how to fix it. You're welcome to just read that rather than listen to me in this video. But the most important thing is that you click that link, sign in with your Rockstar Social Club account, then upvote the post, and you can leave a comment if you want as well. Anything that you want to do helps, but most importantly, upvote it, and hopefully we'll start to sort of see some movement on that and get Rockstar's attention with it. So that's all you've got to do. First line of the description. You're welcome to pause the video right now, click that link, and then upvote it, and then your job will be done, and that's all you really need to do. So with this post, I'm not aiming to suggest any major overhauls. You know, we've done that before. We've tried to suggest racing DLCs. For those of you who are new to the channel and may not necessarily know, I've made suggestions before, and I've done Rockstar support forum posts before about a racing DLC. If you want to go and upvote that whilst you're uploading this one, you're welcome to do that. If you haven't done that already, I'll leave a link to that in the description as well, and I'll leave a link to the video where that's discussed as well. But I'll leave a lot of information in the description anyway. Expand that and you'll be able to see it all. But yeah, we've tried to have these big ideas about how racing could be improved, and honestly I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I don't have that faith that Rockstar care enough about racing on GTA to be doing any major changes or any major updates like we initially had, the ideas that we had for racing DLCs and stuff like that. So I've tried to limit this post to basically game-breaking aspects and things that can be changed easily that would really enhance the experience. So sort of trying to get that ratio of effort on Rockstar's part to benefits on our part as high as possible. You know, the least amount of effort for them and the highest amount of benefits to us. That's what I've tried to do, you know. Again, not going to go and try to overhaul. If Rockstar are ever watching something like this video, for example, and want to contact me and get me involved in sort of overhauling the class system or helping with the car balance or anything like that, I'm more than happy to and open to do that. But you know, I just don't see it ever happening, and I don't see racing DLCs ever being a thing that we get. So this is going to be limited to game-breaking aspects that are very, very easy, or hopefully should be easy to change in terms of the solutions that you can implement for those. So yeah, I'm going to go through what I've basically put in that post and explain a little bit more about my decision to include that, why I've included that. Those of you who watch my videos often, you'll know it all already, but some of the more obscure ones at the end, I'll explain a little bit more as well, because those are ideas that aren't necessarily major, but they would be nice to have. So I'll go through it all, and if you want to listen to me ramble on about it, you're welcome to do so, but you don't have to. The most important thing is that you just click the link in the description and upvote that post. You can just read it all on there if you want. So I'll start off with the primary changes. I've basically split this up into three sections. We've got primary changes, we've got secondary changes, and then we've got sort of nice additions at the end, that sort of other suggestions that would make the racing experience a little bit better. And in this primary changes section, there's only two issues that I see that need to be fixed, but they are basically both game breaking to their respective classes when it comes to racing. They're the absolute highest priority to be changed. If nothing else is changed from this post apart from those two issues, I would be happy. I would be very, very happy. So the first one is probably the most obvious. It's the Sterling GT in the Sports Classics class. Now, the Sterling GT is absolutely completely dominant, with that rear tyre on the back of it increasing traction the same way that spoilers do. It makes no sense that that happens, but because of that, the Sterling GT is is the only car that you can use in the Sports Classics class if you're racing against decent people. It's completely dominant. It's 4 seconds nearly quicker than the Z-Type on a regular circuit. It's a hell of a lot quicker just in general because it's got so much more traction, and it's a very, very easy fix. The solution to it is so easy, and it almost makes me think that the decision to have traction increase on that rear tyre was a mistake, and the car was balanced without that in mind, because when you take that rear tyre off and you don't use that traction increase, it's only about 0.8 seconds quicker than the Z-Type on my testing track, the Sterling GT, but it also suffers from a low top speed. So, you know, it would bring it back to that case of you can choose based on personal preference which car you use. You can choose based on what kind of track it is, whether it's got a few long straights. There might be some other cars that are better. So if the car feels absolutely perfectly balanced without that traction bonus, and I've covered it before. Again, I'll leave a link in the description to the video where I showed that lap time with the rear tire removed. It's such an easy fix. Just remove the traction bonus from the Sterling GT's rear tire, and it will become perfectly balanced in the Sports Classics class once again. There's no need to have it anyway. It looks ugly, and frankly, it just ruins the class. So that's the first one, pretty obvious. The second one is probably the other obvious one, is the Shafter V12 in the sedans class, the armoured version. Again, I've talked about this at length. It just seems like a complete mistake. Same with the Sterling GT and the traction bonus. The cars are well balanced for the sports class, both the V12s, and the LWB versions are well balanced for the sedans class, yet they've been put in the wrong classes. Again, I've talked about it at length. I'll leave a link to that video as well in the description. But again, it's a very easy fix. You just move the V12 armoured version to the sports class, and you move the LWB version to the sedans class, and then it's fixed. That's it. Really easy. The sedans class becomes usable again, but as it stands, the only thing that you can use in the sedans class for racing is the V12 armoured version. So both of those completely break their classes. They completely ruin their classes, and they really do need to be fixed, and they are the highest priority. Otherwise, those classes are just going to be one car classes for the foreseeable future. So those were the primary changes. Those are the things that I would be happy with. If that's all they did, if that's all they solved with this, I would be happy. And that's why I've put them in a separate sort of section on their own. The section just below that is what I've called secondary changes, and basically there's 4 issues here that they're not necessarily game breaking. You know, if they're not changed, they're not going to really impact too much on what we're already doing, but if they were changed, and they are reasonably easy changes to make as well, they would significantly improve the racing experience for the classes that they're in. So the first one of these secondary changes is probably the one that I've talked about the most, and the one that infuriates me the most as well. It's the blister compact not being in the compacts class. It's 12 seconds per lap off the pace in sports. It's far and away the slowest sports car in the entire game. It's perfectly balanced for the compacts class. It would be 0.3 of a second quicker per lap than the Rhapsody, but it's reasonably difficult to drive, and its top speed is only 4th place in the compact class, or would be 4th place anyway. So there is that natural balance there with the other compacts. It's just it boggles my mind, and you know, I try my best not to have rants about the blister compact, because I just start going off on one far too easily because it infuriates me so much. But it's a car that is, you know, when you've got even just the fact that you've got the regular blister in the compacts class, yet the blister compact isn't in the compacts class. The car is absolutely perfectly balanced for the compacts class and compact style races. It's perfectly balanced for it, so it makes no sense to have it in sports when it could be so much more useful and so much more fun having it in what is already, even see, I'm starting to rant about it already, but you know, the sports class is huge. It's absolutely huge. There's so many cars in there, and the blister compact is at the very bottom end of that list, completely useless. The compact class has about 6 or 7 cars. You know, give us the blister compact in there. It's perfectly balanced for it already. All you have to do is just move it to compacts. It makes so much sense. Oh, I'm starting to get angry already. But it's not going to be helped anything by the second option of this section, because it's basically the Blister Compact Mark II, which is the Moonbeam and the Moonbeam Custom. How they aren't in the Vans class is just beyond me. It's exactly the same. It's the Blister Compact all over again. When you look at the lap times, the Moonbeam Custom is 8 seconds per lap off the pace of the Dominator, so it's completely useless in the muscle class. It looks like a van. How it looks like a muscle car, I know that some people have sort of given their own opinions onto why they put it in the muscles class, and it's more of a muscle van or something like that. But you know, from a racing perspective, it makes so much sense to have this car, this van, in the Vans class. It's about 0.8 of a second quicker than the Gang Burrito in my testing around the Cutting Coroner's GP circuit, but it's got a 3.5 mph top speed deficit. So as I've mentioned before in previous videos and recent videos as well, it's the balance is there perfectly. It would be based on preference. It would be based on the track selection, whether you use the Gang Burrito with its higher top speed, or you use the Moonbeam Custom with its better sort of cornering ability but lower top speed. It would be based on the track that you're on, based on personal preference, and that's all you can ever hope for. A little bit of balance at the top of the Vans class, because at the moment the Gang Burrito is completely dominant. You can't use any other vehicle in the Vans class and be successful against top racers unless you're in a Gang Burrito. So give us that option, you know. And it makes no sense in muscle class anyway. Oh, it's Blister Compact all over again. Anyway, right, so those are the two main ones in that secondary changes. Again, you know, if they aren't changed, they're not going to, you know, we haven't lost out on anything if they don't get changed. We're just in the same position that we always have been. It's just that if they were changed, things would be a hell of a lot better. Now the third suggestion in this section is the Bison to the utility class. This was one that sort of caught my eye as I was looking through the lap times of the Vans. I realised that, you know, the Bison, there's not a lot to it anymore. You know, you can't use a Bison in a van race. I mean, you can, but it's off the pace. You know, it's more than 2 seconds per lap off the pace. It has something like a 6 or 7 mph top speed deficit to the Gang Burrito. There's nothing there about the Bison that really that is sort of usable in a van race. So why not just move it to the utility class? Because, you know, a lot of people say that the Bison doesn't belong in vans anyway. It doesn't look like a van. It doesn't make much sense being a van. But the reason that I say move it to utility is because the Bison is actually perfectly balanced with the Saddler. For those of you who can't remember, the lap time that the Bison got in my testing was a 1:20.305, and the lap time that the Saddler got was a 1:20.378. So less than 1/10 of a second between the Bison and the Saddler. They're almost exactly the same vehicle. In terms of the way that they feel, they are slightly different, which is the whole point, but in terms of the lap time that they get, they're pretty much exactly the same. So why not just, it's a quick fix, you know. They're too well balanced with each other to ignore this. It's a quick fix. The Bison is useless in vans anyway. Nobody's going to miss it from the Vans class. Move it over to the utilities class, and there becomes a reason to do utility races again. Well, for the first time ever anyway. You know, there's no reason to do utility races, because if you don't have a Saddler, you're not going to do any good, and who wants to race a load of Saddlers? You know, what's the point? But if you move the Bison there, you immediately give two options at the top of the utilities class. You can either use the Bison or the Saddler. You give people an option, and you can race them against each other, and they're very close on pace. And it becomes a reason to actually do utility races. And it, again, not looking to do major overhauls, but it's a quick fix. It's a quick fix that would make the Vans class, that wouldn't lose anything to the Vans class, and it would make the utilities class actually, that make it a point of using it. There would be a point to using it, because there would be two different cars. So that was just something that came to me as I was looking at the Vans lap times, and I would like to see that change made. Now the fourth and final part of this section is one that I think a lot of people may have expected to be in that first game breaking section, and that is the Sanchez out of the off-road races. Now the reason that that isn't in that first absolutely game breaking must be changed section really is because I think a lot of people, or some people at least, see the logic in having the Sanchez in the off-road class. Now just to point out, technically the Sanchez is not in the off-road class, it's in the motorcycles class. That is its official sort of class in the game. It's just that Rockstar have decided that the Sanchez should be usable in off-road races, and off-road races in general are a bit of a mess. I would rather just see them be limited to off-road vehicles in particular, not having these extra vans or SUVs or motorbikes as well being able to be used. But the Sanchez is the only one that causes the major issue because it is so overpowered. It shares the highest top speed of the Brawler, so it's got the highest top speed in the class by a significant amount over everything else apart from the Brawler, and it's also much quicker around the circuit because it's a bike, you know, it's light, agile, it can get around the corners very easily. It's just so much quicker, and as long as you can wheelie with it, the Sanchez is completely dominant, as long as there's a good driver behind the wheel of the Sanchez. So it's difficult because from a sort of a logical standpoint, the Sanchez is an off-road vehicle. It's a dirt bike, you know. You can't get around the fact that, okay, it makes sense from that aspect, but the Enduro is a dirt bike in the motorcycles class that can't be used in off-road races. The Sanchez is a dirt bike in the motorcycles class that can be used in off-road races. So already you've got that inconsistency there. If the Enduro can't be used, the Sanchez shouldn't be able to be used either. If the Sanchez should be used, the Enduro should be able to be used. You can't have it both ways. So the inconsistency is already there. The reason that I say that it shouldn't be in the off-road class is because technically it isn't in the off-road class in the first place, and it completely ruins the off-road races for all of the other vehicles in that class that would be reasonably well balanced, that would give you an option. You could have the Bifter for the cornering capabilities, you could have the Brawler for the high top speed, you could have the Dune Buggy for the sort of the stability, and the Blazer for the nimbleness. They're all very well balanced behind the Sanchez. It just makes no sense to have it there from a racing perspective, and it does ruin off-road races. It does ruin the off-road class. But the only reason that I haven't put it in that must change section is because, you know, theoretically it does make a little bit of sense in terms of what it actually is, but really I would just like to see the off-road races restricted to vehicles that are actually in the off-road class anyway, not the vans, SUVs or anything like that. So that's the final suggestion for that sort of secondary section of things that aren't necessarily game breaking, but it would significantly improve the racing experience if they were to be changed. And then the third and final section are a few basically quick extra suggestions relating to the whole class system that would again improve the experience even further, hopefully without much effort on Rockstar's part, but not necessarily specific. They're not specific to a certain vehicle in a specific class or anything like that. They're just general suggestions that would hopefully be easy to implement, that would really improve the situation. And the first one is open class racing. Now, in the racing DLC post that I originally did, I put this idea for multi-class racing. Now, this open class racing idea is basically a dumbed down version of that. The multi-class racing idea that I had initially was the idea that you could choose 2 or 3 classes for a race, and you know, you would have a winner of one class and a winner of another class all sharing the same money and all that kind of stuff. You know, looking back on it, it would be a fantastic thing to implement as part of a racing DLC, but what are the chances that we're ever going to get something as involved as that implemented from Rockstar anyway? You know, and as I mentioned, I don't really think it's going to happen. So the open class racing idea that I've put in this post is kind of an easy way to go about that, and it's basically just giving us the option to select open as a class instead of sports, super, motorbikes, whatever. Just open, and you can choose any vehicle that you want. Now in regular lobbies, regular public lobbies, that isn't going to give much use, because you're just going to get people using motorbikes anyway, or supers and sports cars. So you know, it ultimately just becomes a class that is dominated by the fastest class in the game, which is the motorbikes, or some of the top supercars. But it would really be beneficial to us in the racing community, because we could do proper multi-class racing. We could do really good events with it. It's a very, very small change to just allow any vehicle in the game in a race, but it could have a significant impact on what we can do in terms of events, in terms of racing. It would have a huge impact, and I think even though that's a very, very small change, that would bring some significant amount of life into racing on GTA. You know, you're not limited anymore by the class system and the vehicles that are in those classes, and that would be, you know, for people who are sort of have left GTA racing, or they don't do it anymore because it's just, you know, the same old stuff. A small change like that could be a big thing to bring people back to it, and I would really like to see just something around multi-class or open class racing implemented. Now the second suggestion in this final section is adding all of the classes in the game. So this is pretty simple, you know, that there's classes that I've tested that can't be raced. Emergency, industrial, commercial, military and service. They are all classes of vehicles that you can't use in a race. Why not? You know, just open it up. Give us those classes to race. We don't need to be able to store the vehicles to be able to race them. You know, we don't need to be able to store a vehicle and upgrade it to have it as a race. Just let us choose the stock versions of the vehicles from the lobby screen and let us race them. That's all you need to do. Some of them are really interesting classes and you could do a lot with them. And as I've shown in previous videos, it's fun to race something different. Just open it up. Give us the option. You know, what's the harm really? Why keep them locked off? And then that leads into the third suggestion, which is add all of the vehicles. If you're going to be adding all of these classes, make sure to add all of the vehicles for these classes. Don't just do what you did with utility, where, you know, there's about 16 different utility vehicles in the game, yet you can only race the Saddler if you have one, the Caddy, the Faggio, which isn't even technically a utility vehicle, it's in the motorbikes class, the Lawnmower and the Air Tug. You know, why limit it to only those vehicles? Why not include the utility trucks and the dock tugs and, you know, all that kind of stuff? Why not just open it up? Let us use anything. Again, we don't need to be able to store them. Just let us choose it in the lobby screen and let the community make their own events from this sort of stuff. You know, Rockstar, I feel like they just limit GTA too much. It's the beauty about the game is that it's open and the community can do incredible things with what they've given us, yet they still have these, you know, these limits on various things that make no sense, that just, you know, hinder the community's ability to get fun out of the game. And that's what it's all about, just having a bit of fun with it. You know, doing these suggestions, the only problem with these suggestions is that adding all of the classes or adding all of the vehicles in the lobby screen before the start of a race, it's not going to get any extra income. People aren't going to buy shark cards for that because you can't store the vehicles anyway. So, you know, I feel like I might be fighting a bit of a losing battle with this, but, you know, it has to be mentioned. I have to start mentioning it to try and make the racing better. So the final suggestion for this entire post is the idea of having a Sports A and Sports B class and a Muscle A and Muscle B class. And this is something that probably would make some more shark card sales, because you'd have to buy some different vehicles for a change. But the Sports class and the Muscle class in particular, and to some extent the Sedans class as well, they are huge now. They've got a lot of cars in them. And as I've shown in previous videos, again, I'll leave a link to the description to the Slow Sports Showdown, which a lot of you have probably already seen. We used 6 different sports cars there, and we decided to use slower sports cars. There was the Rapid GT, the Buffalo S, we had the armoured version of the Kuruma, there was the Fusillade, the what else was there? There was the Chameleon and the Furora GT. So we had 6 different vehicles there, and those 6 vehicles were better balanced than the top 6 vehicles at the very top of the sports class as a whole. You know, they were so close on pace. We had all 6 vehicles within like a second of each other in terms of lap time on a long track as well. So there's plenty of vehicles within classes that are very, very well balanced. But because they're not at the top of the class, because they're not balanced at the top, like with the Elegy and the Felter and those vehicles, they just don't get used. And you know, you can't sort of blame anyone for not using them. Why would you use a vehicle that is 6 seconds per lap off the pace just because it's well balanced with all of the other vehicles around it? You know, outside of a proper racing event like what we did with that slow sport showdown, it's not going to happen. But with the sports class and the muscles class as well being so huge, you could just easily split them up, and the dividing line can be where the balance is. So make Sports B, make the fastest cars in the Sports B class the Buffalo S, the Rapid GT, the armoured version of the Kuruma. You know, look on my spreadsheet, you'll be able to see those dividing lines for some of these classes. It's very easy to see where the split should occur, and that means that it gives people more of an option of what cars to use. Cars that never get used can actually, you know, get used for a change and be at the top of their class, and it brings in another class that has some balance to it already, and it just freshens up the experience a bit. And that's kind of the whole idea. The experience hasn't really changed all that much from the game first being released. The content creator was a huge change, but apart from that, the class system in particular has just stayed exactly the same. You know, just freshen it up a little bit, have different vehicles, give us different classes, balance the classes that are already there. That's all we're asking. You know, very, very simple changes that would hopefully make a big difference. So if you want to read the actual support post, it's quite long. There's a lot of stuff in there. Obviously this video has been very long, but that's just me talking about the all of the text that I've already written for this. It's quite, hopefully it's quite well written and well presented as well. But yeah, click the link in the description, that will take you to it, and make sure to upvote it and also leave a comment on there as well. You can leave all your comments down below in this video to let me know what you think. I know there's probably many things that you guys will suggest or had suggested that you want to see, but you know, you've got to be realistic about this, and we've got to put the most important things first, and we can't just flood Rockstar with a load of suggestions, because then nothing will get done, because you know, there's just too much there. We've got to focus on the most important things. Yes, it would be nice to completely overhaul everything, but it's just not going to happen. So that's what I've tried to do with this, just put the best ideas forward, the most important that would really enhance the racing experience for those of us who enjoy doing it on GTA, and fix the more game-breaking issues that we've got currently. So thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate all of the support. You know, make sure to upvote that post. Really click the link in the description. You've got to do that. That's the only thing that you need to do. But other than that, you know, you can leave a like on the video and comment on down below and all that kind of stuff. But make sure you upvote that Rockstar support post. Thank you so much for watching. If you have listened to me rambling on for about half an hour, I really do appreciate it, and hopefully we can actually see some positive changes made to GTA Online and the racing in particular. Really do appreciate all of your support as always, guys, and I'll see you next time.